better start. My name is Danielle Cezanne. I'm the gallery director here, and we have wonderful shows right now. The High School Visual Arts Contest. This is the last night for that. I think it's one of the most beautiful shows that we've had. And this is the 6th one. And then we have AHA, this collection of artists that are going to speak tonight. They're in the exhibition hall. And then we also have Destiny Davison in the back, and she has cartooning and animation. And then Beverly has her collection of hat paintings called Hatitude. And it was a beautiful class that she taught where we learned how to paint and learned about the significance of hats in the African American culture. So I'd like to thank everyone for being here, but also our sponsors who make it possible. We couldn't do this without donors offering free lectures. Our premier business sponsors are Boyman Berenshire, Emergency Contractor Services Incorporated, Griner Construction, J.L. Schwieters, Building Supply Construction Incorporated, Mueller Memorial, New Studio Architecture, Schwieters Pottery, Stonehouse Catering, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Keith Zimmer Post number 1782, and Excel Energy Foundation. We'd also like to thank the Manitou Fund, who are generous donors for all of our events. And this activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a Minnesota State Arts Board operating support grant, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Yay! Yay! Yeah, they could have made that a little easier, right? Appropriation is kind of a tongue twister. So I would like to introduce Jackie Rees. She's an outstanding member of our community. She was a person that hired me, actually, about 19 years ago for the White Bear Center for the Arts when I was just a clay student. And so she was our chairman of the board, and she's also worked for the Red Cross, and right now she's on the Greater White Bear Lake Education Foundation. Was. Yeah. That's a was. So anyway, here's Jackie.
Thanks, Danielle. And thanks to the White Bear Center for the Arts for being so welcoming to all of us. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. We have a wonderful program. It's very full, but I think it's going to be something that you will remember for a long time. Some of the voices you hear, some of the art that you see, and the discussion may be difficult. Some of it may make you feel uncomfortable. But to quote Jim Stewart, who's part of AHA, and is a professor emeritus of American history at Macalester College, artistry plus history equals understanding. And that's what we hope you leave with tonight, some deeper understanding of the lived experiences of our African American community. We're going to have some presentations, we're going to have discussion, we'll have some time for questions from you all, so keep those questions in the back of your mind. We'll do that towards the end so that we can have our presentations first. At this point, I'm going to introduce excuse me, Tracy Bauermaster. I have to look. Tracy is the lead teacher, special education teacher for the Insight program at White Bear Lake ALC. But more importantly for tonight, she's one of the 2 coaches of the White Bear Lake Area High School speech team. Tracy will introduce our first 2 speakers and talk with them after that.
Jackie said, thank you, Jackie. I'm Tracy Bauermaster. I teach at the White Bear Lake Area Learning Center. I'm a White Bear resident, and I'm a co-coach for the speech team. For those of you who might not know, speech is an event that is part of the Minnesota State High School League. It involves participants who prepare and compete using pieces they've either written or were written by others, and in some cases they also draw pieces that they spontaneously do pieces on. And I became a speech coach a couple of years ago, not because I'm a great orator or anything like that, that's far from the truth. My daughter was a speech team member, and the team needed a new coach, so I stepped up. But anyway, the students, when they participate in speech, they prepare for these pieces so they are able to compete in competitions called meets or tournaments. Every Saturday, they get dressed up like this and spend the day in various high schools across the state, competing with different competitors in their same categories, whatever they're competing in front of judges who will critique their speeches and rate their speeches, and then those who advance to finals compete again, and then they get all kinds of accolades and all that. And these students, the bravery of them just blows my mind. And they do, in fact, our theme this year was they do what they do for fun, what most people fear most in life, which is getting up speaking. So this year we had a great season. 3 of our speech team members went on to state, and 2 of them went on to nationals. One actually finished 6th in the entire country. So that was pretty amazing. So our 2 national qualifiers are here tonight, and they're going to be performing their pieces. So we have Miriam, Elias, Gunjima, and Mwasa, and their pieces, which delve into topics related to the Black experience in America, give voice to the devastating effects of racism, ignorance, abuse, and addiction. I'm going to first introduce Miriam, Elias, Gunjima. And in addition to qualifying for state and national, she also was named all-conference this year in speech. Miriam is involved in theater, choir, and track, and is a working actor. You may have seen her as she recently appeared in episodes of the television program I Was There on the History Channel. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you, Miriam.
Let's get into this. I'm poor, I'm black, and I may be ugly, but I'm here. The voice of Sally Harris, young African-American woman living in early 1900s rural Georgia. And you see, Sally has been abused from just about every man in her life. From her father, who's taken away her young children, to her abusive husband, who she only knows as Mr. And we see how Sally coped with trauma through prayer, from a compilation of her pleas to God, from ages 14 to 44, from The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Dear God, my mama dead. She died screaming and cussing. She screamed at me and she cussed at me, and I can't move fast enough. You know, by the time I get back from the well, the water be warm, and by the time I get the tray ready, the food be cold, and by the time I get the children ready for school, it be dinner time. And he don't say nothing. He just sit there by the bed, holding her hand and crying, talking about don't leave me. Don't go. She asked about the first one, whose it is, and I say God's. I don't know no other man. And finally she asked where it is. And I say God took it. He took it while I was sleeping. And he killed it out there. out there in the woods, like the one he killed before. And I pray that he kill this one too if he can. Dear God, he act like he can't stand me no more. I mean, you sound evil and up to no good. I mean, he took my baby. I don't think he killed it. I think he sold it to some man and his wife over in Monticello. Just keep hoping he finds somebody to marry. And I see him looking at my little sister. And she is scared. But I say I will take care of you. With God help. Dear God, I seen my baby girl. I know it was her. I mean, she looked just like me and my daddy, but oh, like us and us ourselves. I mean, she got my eyes. Like everything I seen her, she seen, and she pondering it. But I think she mine. My heart says she mine. Dear God, for over a month I have trouble sleeping. I mean, sometimes I get a few hours of sleep, but just when it be getting good, I wakes up. And I think about reading the Bible. I mean, what is it? I ask myself. A little voice gonna say somebody you done wrong. Somebody's spirit you sin against. And maybe. But late one night it come to me. Sophia. I sin against Sophia's spirit, and I pray she don't find out. But she do. And the minute she hears, she marched up the path, took the sack and a little cut of all blue and red under her eye. And she say to me, just wanted to let you know I look to you for help. I mean, ain't I been helpful? I asked her. And you told Harpo to beat me, she said, and I know I didn't, I said. And don't lie, she said, and I didn't mean it, I said. And what you say it for? She asked. And say, 'cause I'm a fool. Say, 'cause I'm jealous of you. Say, 'cause you do what I can. And what is that? She asked. But I say, and she mad before. She's sad now. And she looked to me and she say, all my life I had to fight. I had to fight my daddy, I had to fight my brother, I had to fight my cousins and my uncles, 'cause a girl ain't safe in a family full of men. But I never thought I'd have to fight in my own home. And I loves Harpo. God knows I do. But I will kill him dead before I let him beat me again. And now if you want a dead son-in-law, I suggest you keep on advising him like you're doing. And I'm so ashamed of myself, I say. And Lord, well, the Lord don't whip me a little bit too. And the Lord don't like ugly, she say. But he's not too stuck on pretty. And this make way for our conversation to be more open. And I say to her, you feel sorry for me, don't you? And yes, ma'am, she say slowly, I do. And I think I know how come, but I asked her anyhow, and she say to me, to tell you the truth, you remind me of my mama. She under my daddy's thumb, not she under my daddy's foot. I mean, whatever he says goes, and she try to put in a little half stand sometime with the children, but you know that never work. My daddy hates children, though. No, you never know by how many children he got. And how many, I asked. 12, she said. And I mean, woo, I say. I mean, my daddy got 6 by my mama before she died, and 4 by the wife he got now. I don't mention the 2 children he got by me. How many girls, I asked. And 6 boys, 6 girls, she said. I mean, us getting a fight, it was a sight to see. But I never heard a living thing, I say. But back at home, I give the little ones a tap on the behind to make them behave, but not hard enough to hurt. What do you do when you get mad? She asked. I mean, I don't even remember the last time I was mad. Every time I was mad, start to feel mad, I got sick. Then I don't really feel nothing at all. And so you frown. Nothing at all. But you know, this life soon be over anyways. Because heaven lasts always. And I sleeps like a baby now.
received all conference honorable mention this year and also competed in the state in the national tournament, finishing 6th nationally in the online NITOC tournament. NITOC is the National Independent Events Tournament of Champions. Sonia also is involved in theater, choir, and track, and we are privileged to get to hear her perform tonight. Take it away, Sonia.
Thank you so much. I love it. Love it. Makes me feel good. I'm even glad to be back in Philly. And that's something for me. You know that. Philly's been the rat's ass for me. Shit, I used to tell everybody, when I die, I don't care if I go to heaven or hell, as long as it ain't Philly. But I love singing here at Emerson's Bar again. It's great. I love to sing. Critically acclaimed African-American blues jazz artist Billie Holiday performed from the 1930s to 50s. Known as Lady Dave, she overcame adversity in an incredibly racist industry and claimed her spot as one of the best jazz artists of all time. In this piece, we witness the spiraling of a raw heroin-induced Billie and learn what she was compelled to do for self-respect and for love. This is Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill by Lady Robinson. Oh, I want to introduce my accompanist, Mr. Jimmy Powers at piano. See, a singer's accompanist is home. Jimmy here is so important to me. And he's my main man, ain't you, Jimmy? He's shy. We've been together a long time. This week's our anniversary. 5 damn months. Takes care of me. Fixes things for me so they're okay when they get so bad. And he keeps me in line and sees I sing all the numbers I'm supposed to. I'm not supposed to tell it, but Jimmy and me, we's going to get married as soon as my next divorce comes through. Ain't with Jimmy, but he don't want me telling nobody. See, all I ever wanted was a beautiful home and some kids. I mean, even just the kids. I love kids, and I never had any. If only I could have had me some kids, I never would have gotten myself into no trouble. And I am sure of it. It's what I used to tell Sonny. Sonny Monroe, my first love. He wasn't my best, but he was my first. He was the worst one I ever had too. We was married, see, but he didn't want no kids. Crazy he'd call me. But I know who I am now because of who I was back then. I know nobody is better than anybody. Unless you're colored, then you're better than everybody. I'm kidding. I knew a nice white person once. No, they're just like us. Only meaner. I'm kidding. Listen, honey, we all put our drawers on the times I was singing with Artie's band, Artie Shaw, and we toured, see. We started out in Boston, and it was all downhill from that. So you can imagine when we got down to Virginia, and North and South Carolina, Georgia. So this one place we went to, we was all sitting in the kitchen with all the colored help running around us trying to do their jobs. And we was all paying top price for this, just like we was sitting out front. So everything was smooth as silk. Ooh, till I realized I had to use the bathroom in the worst way. I mean, my kidneys was almost to bust. So I got up and asked this black dude where was the bathroom. And while I was trying to explain to him that I didn't need to go there to powder my nose, when this blonde bitch comes into the kitchen from the dining room. Now she was the matrice who wouldn't let me in the dining room to begin with. So she saunters up real big and says, just what exactly seems to be the trouble here? And I look at her like, where'd she come from? She says, I'm sorry, Miss Day. We don't have toilets for the colored. And I said, listen, honey, you have me confused. I am Billie Holiday. Also, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or nothing, but everybody I see working here, except you, is about as colored as they come. Now, where do they go? So she shifts her weight around slow and tells me, we didn't want you coming in our restaurant to start with. We don't allow colored here. The only reason we let you in is because Mr. Shaw agreed to pay twice as much for all of you. Mr. Shaw said nothing about letting you use the toilet. And I will not let you do that. So I said, what do you propose I do about this situation? And she said, why don't you sit on it? Ooh, I was so shocked. I just looked at her a minute and said, no, I think I'll let you do that. And I cut loose. The biggest deluge all across those sequin-covered shoes of hers to come down the pipe since Noah. You never seen a grown woman leap so high up in the air as she did in your life. Dropping menus and screeching. And that, I can assure you, was a high and low of the whole tour for me. I mean, come on, I peed on her shoes. It's bad again. Real bad. Don't pull that phony doctor shit, Sonny. These are my friends here. They know I'm not sick. I
of doctors, and I'm still a nigger. Ain't I? No doctor I met has ever cured me of that, has he? And I tried then to tell him, no, it ain't me. See, I wasn't even at the hotel. I was here at the club when the policeman broke into the room, and it was you, Sonny, who put the stuff into my suitcase because you said that you couldn't make it to the toilet. And so you stashed it all into my suitcase because you thought me being Billie Holiday and all that shit, that the damn cops wouldn't do nothing to me. So I said, okay, Sonny. And I got my chauffeur to drive me back to Philly so I could plead guilty. And I was standing there, and everybody looking at me, because they ain't never seen no colored woman in a limousine with no damn fur coat on her back. Before the judge takes one look at me and says a year and a day. And I didn't know about none of that shit till I met you, Sonny. And how you cried so bad when I wouldn't have none of it. And I said I would, but not heroin. You were so lonely and scared. And so I said to myself, Sonny, you know, there's one damn bitch in this world that loves him. You want to know what I want? I want me a beautiful home and some kids. That's all.
Amaze me. Just rolling away. We have some questions here that we will ask the two of you, just about your process and so on. Miriam, I'll start with you. How did you happen to choose the color purple in these particular moments in Celie's life?
Okay, so it was kind of random. I consider myself a night owl, so it's like, that's kind of the reason I don't get sleep. But all like my creative ideas come to me at night, so I was just kind of on my computer, and this was prior to the speech season. And I had never like read The Color Purple. I had known The Color Purple just from like Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, but like I truly didn't know what it was about. But I kind of knew I wanted to do it as my speech. So as I was basically going through it during the speech season, that is how I was learning about the passages. And even then, just reading the horrific things going on in the book, I feel like that kind of drew me into Celie's story and everything that she's going through. She is truly a woman of endurance and kind of just using her trauma to bring light to things and using her drama to like speak for her when words can't. So I feel like that's what drew me to each of her passages and to The Color Purple in general.
Sonia, how did you decide to select Billie Holiday in this particular passage?
I already knew Billie Holiday. My sister actually did the same piece, and she went to state. So in my first year of speech, I was like, oh, why not like do something that I'm kind of familiar with? And I just yeah, I really wanted to emulate all the pain and trauma she's been through, and I think that she's just such a strong woman, and I just love the way that she portrayed herself, even though she was going through all these hard things in her life, and she still really used music to translate that I'm still here. So.
Miriam, what did you learn from Celie's letters to God? What truth do you think she's expressing in them?
From her letters to God, just going through, like, surprisingly, all 4 of those passages that I read were from the first 30 pages of the book, and there's over 100 pages in the book, so if it can get that bad that fast, then there's a lot more to come. But I have to say, like, once again, I learned a lot about, like, endurance and truly powering through, but also realizing your own strengths and your own weaknesses, kind of just through life, kind of working off of the world around you and the people around you to kind of emulate your own sense of being. That's
Now, Samuel, what did you learn from being Billie Holiday? What truth do you feel like she's speaking in the scene?
I truly learned, like, just having to be her every weekend at like 8 a.m. And just performing it like 4 times a day, dependent on if I finaled or not. I just learned. I just learned truly the pain that she felt, and I feel even more connected to her, even though she has passed on. And I'm sorry, what was the rest of the question?
So, what truth do you feel like she's speaking in this scene?
I feel like she spoke a lot of truths throughout throughout my speech, at least the parts that I chose from the play. I think she's talking about how through all this abuse and trauma that she went through, truly at the end of the day, all she wants is just to be a mother in a big home with some children. And obviously, you can see that a lot of that stuff didn't work out with her, and just through her conversations with her ex-husband and stuff like that, or her ex-fiance, ex-boyfriend. And you can just see the truth that she's speaking, even though she might be hallucinating and or drunk. She's just really speaking her truth, and she just breaks down ultimately at the end.
Now, for both of you, I'll have both of you answer the same question. And you really put yourself out there every week, every time you put this performance, and you can tell, we could actually see the emotion on both of your faces as you're doing this. How has this impacted your life today as a young woman, thinking to the years to come, this experience of doing these pieces and going to the place that you had to go to emotionally to give the kind of performance that you gave?
I'd say, like, having to wake up 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning to go into a room full of high school kids and pretend to be like a traumatized woman in the 1900s, that's a lot. But I mean, I love speech, I love doing it. I feel like connecting to what Celie experienced and like being a 16-year-old girl, like it's very, very different. But then again, getting to like reach those depths emotionally and like as an actor, it kind of like opened perspectives for me, just like reading the book, having to do it for judges, getting the responses from judges about how they interpreted my piece, or like how my friends, or even my grandma, interpreted my piece as many times as I would like force her to listen to it kind of badly. But I mean, my truth from this is that I am my own person, no matter who else. I have my sister, I have my mom, but then I have me. So no matter how many steps I take in life, no matter what door I walk through, I will still be Miriam no matter what.
Sorry, Miriam was like speaking so good. Can I have the question again?
Sure. What kind of impact has this experience had on your life today as a young woman and thinking ahead to the years to come?
I think I definitely look at domestic abuse different, and like sort of pain it can bring, as well as substance abuse. And definitely with celebrities, because even though they are these like really well-known people, at the end of the day, sometimes they're the ones who are suffering the most. And just with all these actresses and singers that have died over the years due to substance abuse, I really think that it's a heavy topic that I will take with me. And I think just, as Miriam said, like getting up every morning, like walking into high school and seeing a bunch of, high schoolers in suits, it's kind of a weird experience. But I think it just feels good to know that I'm surrounded by so many smart people. We're all here to do our speeches, and it's an experience a euphoric experience that I don't think I'm gonna forget. And I'm definitely gonna take on these public speaking skills with me wherever I go, especially college. But yeah.
Thank you so much. That's super. Such two young, very wise women. Thank you so much for doing this for us. How many times have you done it? How many times have you done it? Too many. Okay. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us. We're not going to let you go. If you would like to move back there, I'm going to move this. And I would like to ask Kevin Donovan and Tolu to come up and take those two chairs. Kevin is going to introduce and talk with Tolu. Kevin is my colleague, excuse me, at the White Bear Lake Rotary, where we are co-chairs of the Equity and Inclusion Committee. And we're also involved in a number of other things, including Many Faces, AHA, many things. So Kevin, take it away. There's your thing.
Thank you, Jackie. I'll let you hold that. If anyone ever doubts, we're in good hands with our future leaders. I think we saw two examples of future leaders that are going to be really do well. And I'm going to introduce another person that I believe is going to be a major future leader. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. We have the speech presentations, and now we're going to move to a visual arts presentation. So Tulu Akintola is the school board student rep for Matamidi High Schools. And I often say I have one of the best jobs in the world on the school board because I always get seated next to the student rep. And the student reps are the best of the best. And all students are best, but to have somebody come forward and spend evenings doing school board work and putting up with us old folks, it's a pleasure. It's absolutely a pleasure to serve with Tulu. And her commitment to this work has been over the year because they're appointed for a year, and her dedication to this work, because you can come in and give the student report and just to be there. Tolu has taken it to a whole new level. And she has been steadfast in her representation of student voice. Because we as school board members set policy, we set direction of district, vision of district. But oftentimes we do that with our look back, in my case of over 40 years, my high school experience, and we're maybe not in tune with the needs of our young students. So Tulu has been that for Matamidi. And she does give the student report, so she's in charge of going and finding the research for all of the different schools. We have 4. And then she gives a report of what's going on and what's happening. Starting in kindergarten and going into high school and talking about all the such things as the Minnesota High School League. So that's how I've gotten to know Tulu. And it really truly has been my honor and pleasure. So just a few things to also kind of share with you how much dimension Tulu has. In the fall, Tulu was invited to attend an AMSD, an Associated Metropolitan School District Conference, which is something they have once a year. It was on equity and inclusion work in schools. And we had some presentations from school districts that are doing a lot of this in their work. And then we had roundtable discussions. And people talked to me afterwards and they were just incredulous that you came and represented Matamidi so well. In fact, I think you were the best of the few of us that were there. And people again were just so impressed that she came in and wasn't just sitting and listening. She was contributing in meaningful ways. And so the whole idea of doing this conference was to bring this work back to Matamidi and see how we in the Matamidi School District could better ourselves in equity and inclusion work. Tolu is the co-founder of something called BASE, and in schools we always have acronyms. So BASE stands for Building Awareness Surrounding Equity. Co-founder. It's a student-led club to create awareness, conversation, and advocacy about equity issues. And that group has been very active and been doing some just absolutely amazing work in Matamidi. And it's student-driven, it's student-led, which is really the way it should be. Okay, so now to her work in science. She was on a team that we have in Matamidi called MAPS, another acronym, Modeling a Protein Story. And this has been a group that's been in existence for 6-7 years, something. And our life science teacher, Jim Lane, leads that. But it is a group primarily of women. But you had one boy this year, that was new. And the modeling a protein story is, again, trying to figure out how proteins work and how they affect, in this case, rheumatoid arthritis. And they will do such things as model the proteins on a 3D printer and make these models, which I should have had you brought one of those today, that would have been cool. But at the end, the culmination is they have to present and share all this out with people in schools, with anybody that is interested. They do these seminars. But they are also invited to go to a national biology conference in, was it San Diego? Where was it this year?
This year's
Philadelphia. San Diego's better, it's warmer. But anyway, and this is a National Science Symposium seminar which is geared towards college and graduate level work. So Matamidi is pretty unique in sending high school students to this conference. And I know one of the teams, I mean, this is the caliber where a Nobel laureate actually ended up speaking to a number of the students from Matamidi a couple years ago. I mean, this is high-powered science today in our schools. So if you ever get a chance to hear some of this, it's just absolutely amazing. She is also involved in track and field, and as we're going to see tonight, beautiful and compelling art.
Yes.
So we have this picture here. It's smaller, and so I'm going to invite you after this to come on up and take a look at it. Talk to Tolu, but take a look because it's a little hard to see from where you are.
Yeah.
But there is so much meaning in this picture. Tolu will be attending Case Western Reserve University in Ohio, where she plans to major in neurobiology. So, yes, we are in good hands.
There is hope.
Hopefully you'll go out and solve Alzheimer's for us.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a few questions for you. What was your motivation? Maybe first, so that it has context, could you maybe just describe your painting, and then we can delve into it a little bit.
Okay, thank you guys all for having me tonight. So this was a digital, as it says, digital work. I did it on Photoshop and that kind of process. Essentially, like to kind of answer that question, my goal here was to kind of just show the impact of Black history and Black culture over the years. Oftentimes, especially in the kind of community that I find myself in, people will dismiss it in a really awful way. They will often be like, it doesn't matter anymore, it was so long ago, but in reality, it was only like 40, 50 years, which is, if you think about it, only like half of someone's life. So it really wasn't that long ago, and I really wanted to show that. I'm also a writer, so I am on like the school newspaper, so I really do like newspapers. I love good paper copy. And I thought that that would be a good way to demonstrate the timeline of Black history and Black culture.
Great. Is there any specific moment in your life experience that influenced you? So is there anything specifically in your life that said, this is something that I'm compelled to produce?
I would say it's more of a collection. Like I said, I do go to a predominantly white school, so you have comments and microaggressions that you experience all the time. I can think of one specifically. In sophomore year, my school was dealing with an incident, and that causes buzz, you know. And in one of my science classes, one of this girl, she was like, I don't understand why this is such a big deal. Like, this happened so long ago, this and that. Luckily, my friend was there, so she kind of stopped me before I started talking. But she was just like, it's not that big a deal anymore. Like, I don't understand this. Like, everyone's good, everyone's okay, which is clearly not true. So that's just one thing that inspired this. But I will say that this was an assignment, and I had to do it. So thank you, Ms. Wilma. But I wanted this assignment to be something that related to me, and that's why I chose it.
What do you want your audience to see when they look at your piece of art?
I've talked about it a few times already, but I feel like I want my audience to be able to see that timeline, see that history, but also see the impact, good and bad. Black history is complicated and long, and it's definitely not something that can be forgotten, and it's impacted today in a lot of ways, negative and positive. The girl here is supposed to represent like the positive aspect of it, the growth in it. She's still powerful despite a lot of the trauma that her people have had to go through, but I don't want that trauma to be forgotten at the same time. I still want it to be recognized and remembered and appreciated in some ways.
All right, well, this is not on script, and I know Jackie gets nervous when I go off script. I'm going to do it anyway, because I think it's important. As I said, Tolu and I serve on the Maunamidi School Board, and we have all sorts of different opinions that come forward and we hear. So at some point in the last year, how's that for protecting their, at some point in the last year, someone spoke and talked about critical race theory and some of the things that we've heard in the media, and these get picked up by the public and they bring them forward. And it was very hard to hear for me, and as we talked, very hard for you to hear. And so I said, I'm troubled, disturbed, angry, sorry, all those things that might come to mind when you hear that. And you said to me, and this is the point that I will not soon forget, you said to me, don't worry, Kevin, I'm used to it. So I hope in the future we can not ever have that. We don't want to have people used to that, right?
Right.
So Tolu, it has been an honor and a privilege to serve. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. It's so exciting to have student voice among us and to have, as I said, such wise young women. Thank you all. Now, if you will stay here, let's take a minute and ask our 4 AHA artists to join us over there. Some of you, I think, were here on May 17th when we had the opening reception. Okay, so you've met the artists, and you're going to hear some more tonight. I encourage you, if you're not, to please take time to go up the hallway and look at their gallery, as well as the high school artist gallery over there. AHA stands for Artistry, Honesty, Healing, Action. And as a group of African American artists, their purpose is, I have to read one of these things, you have to read. The purpose is to speak the truth. Sorry. to engage residents of traditionally white suburban communities, like White Bear Lake and Matamidi, in transformative conversations and activities that heal the breach and create mutual understanding. Back to that, history plus artistry equals mutual understanding. We asked each of them to pick one of their pieces of art and talk about that. And I'll let them introduce themselves, talk about the select piece that they have selected, talk a little bit about what motivated them to do that piece, what they would like the audience to learn from that piece, some of the same questions we asked Tolu and Sanyo and Miriam. So Donald, you're on that end. Donald Walker, I'm going to let you start.
Oh, no.
Do you want this, do you think? Yeah, maybe.
I just want to bring it out so
Yes.
Thank you.
make sure everybody can see it. I chose this piece, first of all, I used to draw for the Minneapolis Star Tribune. I'm a news artist. I'm inspired by my environment. Also, I'm inspired by the news. I mean, me and CNN and ABC and all the rest of it, we're cousins. I sleep and eat and dream that. I don't want to bombard you with gun violence because again, that's all we've been hearing lately. And if I were to do this piece again, I would probably put Congress all through here instead of young men pointing a gun at each other. I'm trying to, get the message out that this violence, it can be conquered. I mean, it's just crazy, all this insanity that's going on, and they focus on people when they should be focusing on the people that make the laws. I mean, they go and that's what I did. I focused on the people. But I also stuck in the HBO and Showtime. I mean, they feed us all this violence and then act so surprised that we have gun violence. It's like the quarterback sneak. They throw the football knowing that the football is going the other way. And again, if I were to create this piece again, I would just draw Congress. Focus it on the people that make the laws and break the laws. And I just hate that our generation is asleep, not taking this serious. And the young people have to pay the price for our point of sleeping on the job. And I'm inspired, like I said, as a news artist to bring this type of visual information to the public so we can get a response, some action, and some, come to table to talk about how we can stop this insanity. Because it can be fixed, but, we have to do something about it. We can't rely on our leaders to do it. We have to do something about it. And as an artist, I've been given the divine power to show what I can. And that's what I presented on this. Any questions?
When are you going to paint the new painting?
Soon.
Bring it
Very
out,
soon.
bring it out.
Very soon.
Come back with some questions also.
Okay. Thank you.
Everyone's working in the gallery for that.
Or I can just put yours back and put yours up.
Leave it out, we can see it.
Kennedy Simpson, a graphic artist. Can you answer the question? You probably don't need the mic, I don't think you can try.
So my motivation behind creating this piece, I created this in college, but got the idea from Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I read that in high school. And I really connected with the idea of invisibility. To put it into perspective, I just used to describe myself as a piece of gum on the bottom of somebody's shoe. It's, you know it's there, but just kind of a nuisance and nobody really pays attention to it. So after reading what the main character went through in this book, really, that was probably one of the first moments in high school. I'm from Stillwater, also a very white area, but after reading that book, that's probably one of the first moments that I felt seen, which is interesting because it wasn't even by anybody around me, it was by this author from a whole other time who isn't even here anymore. But I remember a moment in this class in high school that we were discussing Invisible Man, and I brought up the conversation of light-skinned versus dark-skinned people in the Black community. And I was shocked because all these white students, they were like, what do you mean? What does that mean? And I was like, how do you not know what this means? And in that instant, I think I gained a lot of understanding for the people around me because I had been moving in a way that I thought that people understood where I was coming from. But they didn't, and that's okay. And I gained a lot of compassion for myself too in that moment. Just because they didn't understand didn't mean that I was wrong by any means. And also this idea of being whitewashed. This figure is only visible with white paint, and that's really what I felt I did in high school. I have curly hair, I straightened my hair, I dressed how the people around me dressed. I really adopted this white persona that isn't me, and it's taken a lot to come off of me, but we're working towards it. Thank you.
You're gonna pass it on to Beverly.
Let's say ladies first, right?
Beverly Tipton Hammond.
Hi, everybody. My father used to sing this song. Them that's not shall get. See, I told you I'd sing you something, just a little song. Them that's not shall lose. Though the Bible says that it still is news. Mama may have, and I know your papa may have. But God bless the child that's got his own. That's got his own. Money, you got lots of friends. They come all around your door. I'll stop right there because I have things to say. But that was an honor of my dad, Tom Tipton. He spent a lot of time here in White Bear Lake. And we have a dear friend, Joy and I, James Nutt, who kind of got me all of a sudden doing watercolor. And Danielle knows because I got a little watercolor book from James. And when we got to Paris, I started watercoloring like crazy, and I fell in love with that medium. Though most of my pieces you'll see are acrylic. And so I got real courageous, and I said, I'm going to do a human being instead of a plant or a restaurant in Paris. And she came out. And what I realized when I was done that she's kind of me when I was a kid. And her name is A Bright Future. And I was going to pick something else, and then we keep losing children to senseless murder, and to honor the children, and also to talk about how blessed I was as a child. I spent Minnesota summers here with Dad from 1970 or 69 till I was 20, and I spent a lot of wonderful times. I rode on horses, I fell out of trees, and fished on the lakes, and I just had the most incredible time. And my heart bleeds, and it weeps for children who will not grow up. So this piece is in honor of children that are still here on the planet, that they would have a bright future, and that somehow we can be better as people to one another in honor of the children that have died. Right above this piece is a piece Drew helped me to consider and do, which is there, called about it's Breonna Taylor's face, and she's on a quilt, and the title of that piece is I Should Still Be Here. That is, I guess, the word for all of those that have just recently died. Whatever you can do to make it better, let's do it.
Mr. Andrew Drew Hammond.
Thank you. I'm trying to stay on the script.
You don't have to.
You don't have
Just
to.
talk about it.
Okay. So, put it in one. Oh, you got it. Cool. Question. Now, I know, nobody here is over 40, but who's pushing 40? Show of hands. Who's pushing game 40? Who's on the other side of 40? Other side of 40. She only saw 44. Young. Billy toured down south. I'm from South Carolina. And Billy saw bodies hanging in trees, poplar trees. Strange group, great lyric. And so when we talk about critical race theory, that isn't a new subject. It's ancient, very old. And Billy, in a way, was trying to teach critical race theory back then, but it wasn't warranted. Not only that, nightclub owners didn't want her to sing this song. The federal government didn't want her to sing this song. And they hunted her down like an animal. And it didn't matter to her because she was just so compelled. She thought it was imperative that she continue to sing this song, regardless of consequences, regardless of all of the infiltration that took place, regardless of all of the drugs that they put on her. They just needed her to be so oppositional to law at any cost, just so the rest of America, as if we were dumb, or the rest of the world won't argue or say, hey, this took place in America or is taking place in America. This is what they're doing today. I'm reminded of Little Ruby Bridges. Anybody heard of Little Ruby Bridges? So Little Ruby Bridges was just trying to go to school with everybody else. And children were throwing tomatoes, rocks, stones, whatever they could, and just whatever they had at their disposal. And here we are today, those children that threw, it's almost irony. Those children, they're grandparents today, and they don't want their children, their grandchildren, to learn that they threw rocks at Ruby when Ruby was a little girl. This won't be fixed in my lifetime, and I am okay with that. But this is a start. When folks speak to you in regarding of race, when somebody's sugarcoated to make us feel comfortable. You know when you're being sugarcoated. But you have to have some honest conversations. You have to have some serious conversations about this amongst yourselves. You really have to. Fortunately, our art, we're in the same vein. Our art speaks for us. Anybody in here knows anybody, by show of hand, that was lynched? Well, I'm ready to do the 6 degrees of separation. I do. Anybody seen a cross burning? I have. So I just shrunk the world for you. So now you can say, I know somebody, that kind of thing. I mean, that's not, okay. Yeah. So anyway, whenever I do a piece like this, this is probably the 10th, I don't know, 10th one I did. I never put the faces of African Americans in. I always use some kind of object, be it fruit or gold or some kind of symbol, but I just refuse to put our faces on it. There's a part here, Jackie, I wanna ask that. This is a very, very sensitive, very can you stand for a second? You, yes. This is a very, very personal, deep, serious, very important question. Is that for sale? No?
I don't have, I need to take my clothes to college. I gotta save my money, so. Sorry, I'm sorry. I know they look good. I know they
She
look
just
good.
messed that all up for me. I just think she was, no, I'm not even, but see, Danielle, what that would do, that would kind of like make me put myself out there. You want me to tell her that I gave her an award for that, and I'm not even gonna go there.
Okay.
See, I'm not even gonna tell her that I gave her an award to win something based on that piece that was hanging right there,
Yeah.
right? But I'm not gonna do that. Danielle? Jackie?
Let's see if there's some questions. Young women, artists, some questions? Anybody? Almost raising your hand, good.
I just want to make a comment to, my two granddaughters, they're twins. They just graduated from Matamidi High School. And I brought them over today to see the show. And they saw your piece and they knew you. And they were supposed to come tonight and they had something else that came up and I'm so unhappy they aren't here, but I wanted to buy it, but it's not for sale.
This is what artists do. Normally we call ourselves starving artists. Not this one. Loaded.
It's a wonderful piece,
What I'm
yeah.
going to do then is I'm going to ask Donald and Kennedy and Drew and Beverly, what advice would you like to give these three young women? You saw their presentations and you know Tolu's art. What kind of advice would you like to pass on?
What was the question?
Say, whatever you go into in your career,
Can't hear, I couldn't hear.
Oh, can you?
Will you say the question again louder?
Okay. Sorry. The question is I've asked each of them to give what advice they would like to give to these three young women
Thank you.
as seasoned artists.
like I'm saying, whatever you choose to go into in your career, I would just sharpen your skills and build very good bridges. I mean, as far as relationships, just keep a positive and a strong relationship that will elevate your career or move you forward. Personality is a big tool to have. I mean, along with your skills, always keep a good record of having a good background. That people can always be happy that they met you, that you was part of their growth, you part of your growth, and again, keeping a good background behind you.
Kennedy, you have fewer years between you and them than the others.
I do.
What would you say?
I've been looking forward to this moment. I want you all to know I've been taking and a lot from all of you. I don't want to cry up here, but I might. I am in awe of how much power you all hold, because I did not have that at your age. Ugh.
Thank you so much.
I ran from my own blackness for a very long time, and seeing you all up here was really emotional for me, and I'm really proud of you. I don't even know you, and I'm so proud. Advice I would have is don't be bashful, show up, and hold your head high. All of you, you deserve to, and trust yourself. Sometimes I struggle to trust myself, but you know what's right for you.
I don't have any advice, but the old adage they use down south is keep on keeping. You guys give me hope. So to have me to sit back there behind Kevin and my eyes get well up from performance, yeah, you've mastered your craft. So like Donald and Ray Kennedy said, don't be bashful, stick with it. But you guys gave me serious hope. That doesn't mean I don't want that.
There's a scripture in the Bible on the ministers, I gotta quote something because it hit me hard. We have this treasure in earthen vessels. And I'm telling you, you all left me speechless. So what I would say was continue to be brave, be bold, be vigilant, diligent, if that rhymes. Stand your ground. There's nothing you can't do. And you are a future, you make us so proud. It's amazing. It's amazing, and there's nothing you can't do, so soar and reach for the stars.
I could give each of you a chance if you would like to make any closing comments back to them.
I just wanted to thank everybody in general for being here. I guess I'm talking about myself specifically, but it just makes me happy to perform my piece. I've been curating it for months, and now that this is my final goodbye to it, for being Billy, it just really makes me happy that I had this impact on people that I never even dreamed of when I first started this as something that I was just like, oh, my sister did it, I might as well, but it just really makes me happy that I had this impact on people, and thank you everyone for giving me advice, and I'll take it with me in my future, and yeah, I just really appreciate everyone for being here today, so.
I'd have to say, like, just what Sonia said, it's really, really great to see, like, some old faces too, and just seeing and, like, knowing that all of you came out to support us today, and even all of the artists too. It's so nice knowing that I can inspire people from generations that came before me, and hopefully now inspire people from the generations that are gonna come after, and also just like saying goodbye to Celie after doing that speech way too many times. But I mean, it's just so great, like the talented people that we have up here and that we have in this room. It's just so beautiful to see every day. Now I'm happy that I can also watch the Color Purple movie.
First to you guys. Okay, I'm not gonna be too awkward, but I am a debater. So, yeah, I know, right? When you guys were talking about the 8 a.m.s, I was like, oh my gosh, same. But just seeing you guys up there was pretty cool because sophomore me, going up there, are you insane? There's no way. So you guys just know that you're doing good, and you will be good. And to you guys, you said that I'm inspiring, which is very interesting to me, but I hope you know that you are too. All of you guys have just really interesting and like beautiful art that like makes me see things in a different perspective. It's weird because I never thought I'd be sitting like in a panel like this, you know? I'm a scientist. I don't do art in a way. So it's definitely a weird experience, but I'm really happy I got to do it, and I thank you guys so much for the advice that you've given me. And I thank you guys all for coming out tonight too, and just listening to me ramble on today, and I appreciate all of that. So thank you.
I can't thank all of you enough for spending this time with us and sharing your stories with us and with each other. Again, I encourage everyone to look at the art. It is for sale, I believe, most of those pieces, I think.
I don't want that.
There's one that was sold, you want back, right? The other thing I want to say is that starting this Saturday, Beverly is beginning the first of 4 classes on Saturday of modern Afro-American dance. I know that Michaela and I are going to be there, and I hope some others of you will join us for that. And in July and August, Jim Stewart will end each of the artists on consecutive, are they on Saturday? I can't remember now.
No,
Tuesdays, okay, Tuesday evenings in July and August. Jim and one of the artists each time will talk about that magic of artistry plus history equals understanding. So I encourage you to sign up for those classes as well. And maybe we'll even have some other kinds of things along the way. Kevin, anything else that you wanted to?
You know, I'm all about sales. So the starving artists would love to have your sale. So if you look at that art, let them know, show the love, you want the art. Also behind here are some, in the gift shop, are some t-shirts that Kennedy produced, and I think some of the art, other artists put some things up there as well. But there's some, my favorite t-shirt is the John Lewis Get Into Good Trouble t-shirt, so they are available.
Thank you. Okay, again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, White Bear Center for the Arts, for hosting us. It's been great. We really appreciate it.